Welcome, and Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah.
Amen.
Amen.
And here we are in the yes, in the text. So, all right. And Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. So, Vayishlach Yisrael. So this is a new paragraph, whole new subject in a way, but we're still, remember, on our journey to Eretz Yisrael, and we're getting very close. This is the end of the 40 years that we have come to. There's not a lot written during the 40 years, but at any rate, so there is actually a statement that says that during those 40 years, Moses did not receive any communication from God, that because the Israelites were being, in a sense, punished, of course, and because they were in bad graces at that particular point, Moses also would be. And we'll see actually a comment in a moment, not directly on this particular item, but seeing the connection between Moses and the Israelites. So, Vayishlach Yisrael Malachim, Israel sent forth messengers, El Sichon Melech HaEmori, to Sichon, the king of the Amorites, Lamor, stating, okay? So the word for angel is also malach. And so the word malach means messenger. That's the essential, angel does not connote that to us, but in the Hebrew it does. So let's take a look here. Rashi gets right into it. Vayishlach Yisrael malachim. Israel sent messengers. Uvamakom acher, and in another place, tole hashlichut b'Moshe. It says that Moses, it makes this mission dependent on Moses, that Moses was the one who sent them. Shneimar, as it states in Deuteronomy chapter 2, Va'eshlach malachim. It says Moses, of course, in Deuteronomy giving these three speeches, and so when he speaks and says I, he's referring to himself, and it says, and I sent messengers, mimidbar kedemut, from the desert of Kedemut, v'chein, and so, etc. V'chein, and likewise in Numbers chapter 20, Vayishlach Moshe malachim, right? Mikadesh el melech Edom, that it says Moses sent messengers from Kadesh to the king of Edom. Uveyiftach, and in Jephthah, this is in Judges, which is Judges chapter 11, where Jephthah has sent this message that includes the history of the Jewish people from the land of Egypt up to that point, and it's a beautiful description of that particular journey. So Jephthah says he says in Judges chapter 11, Vayishlach Yisrael. There he says the Israelites sent malachim. They sent messengers El Melech Edom, to the king of Edom, the Gomer, etc. Haktuvim halalu. So these verses require tzrichim zelazeh. They require each other. They're intertwined. Ze noel. This one locks. Veze potech. And this one opens. Here we go. Shemoshe hu Yisrael. That is to say that Moses and Israel are one. That is, Moses is Israel, the Yisrael he Moshe, and the Israelites, they are Moses. Lomar lacha, to tell you, Shenasi Hador, that the prince or the leader of that generation, hu kechol Hador, he is like the entire generation. Ki hanasi hu hakol, because the leader is everything. In those few sentences, Rashi is sharing a mouthful, right? And I would say that the way we could say it is that essentially what a leader does is to set the tone. And the tone of that generation is set by the leader, and everyone is affected by that tone. So there we are. Here we are. And because of this identification between a leader and the followers and the people being led, right? For that reason, when the followers had been, in a sense, rejected, Moses was also rejected. Why we see the two combined. And the implication, if one agrees with this, if you feel this is a correct interpretation of reality, that tells us a lot, right? In terms of, especially if you live in a democratic state and you get to vote for who your next leader is going to be, and never to forget that the tone is going to be affected by that leader. So, onwards. As you can imagine, I was pretty much bowled over when I reread this. So, what did he say? What did these messages say? Ebra'ab artzecha, let me pass through your land. Lo nite basadeh uvecherem, we will not turn aside to fields or vineyards, to a field or a vineyard. Lo nishte me be'er, we will not drink the water from a well. Baderech hamelech nelech, we will go along the king's highway. Ad asher na'avor gvulacha, until we have passed through your borders. Rashi. Let's see if there is Rashi here. I will pass through your land. So there's the avor. Afalpi, so despite the fact, shelon nitztavu, this is also so interesting. It says, despite the fact that they were not commanded, that is the Israelites, were not commanded, liftoach lahem b'shalom, to initiate a peaceful, a peaceful proposal. Bakshu mehem shalom. They nevertheless sought peace, sought a peaceful way in which to accomplish what they wanted to accomplish. And again, this interesting statement here. And I have to assume that this is something to be said that's positive, because we have other statements, right? Be of a disciple of Aaron, seek peace and pursue peace, seek peace and pursue it. And of course, you know, these are fine words. And the question is, to what degree, if I can borrow a metaphor from the New Testament, do we clothe these with flesh, these ideas, and actually internalize such ideas? But that one's initial engagement should be with peaceful intent and in a peaceful kind of way. Next, Velo natan Sichon et Israel avor, but Sichon did not give Israelites permission, avor bigvulo, to pass through his borders. But not only that, Vaye'esof Sichon et kol amo, Sichon gathered his entire people, Vayetze likrat Yisrael, and they went out to meet. Well, in this case, it wasn't in a friendly way, right? Essentially, it was to attack. But they came to meet the Israelites, Hamidbara, in the wilderness, Vayavo Yochza, and they came to Yochza, that is to Yochatz, or something like that, a town, a place, Vayilachem Israel, and they did battle against the Israelites. Right. So let's take a look. So here's the thing. I mean, the Amorites would be one of the Canaanite nations that the Israelites would have had an opportunity to destroy. And they're not the Ammonites, right? The Ammonites would be descendants of Lot, so they would be somehow related. But the Amorites were Canaanites. So here we go. Velo natan Sichon, but Sichon did not give them that opportunity. So why? This is also Very cool. So you understand that the Amorites would have been one of the first peoples that the Israelites would encounter as they were on their way to conquer the 7 Canaanite nations. So the reason why he wouldn't allow them, right, is Kol Malcheknan, that all the rulers of Canaan, Hayu, or kings of Canaan, Hayu Ma'alin Lo Mas, they would pay a tax to him, to Sichon, Shaya Shomram, that he was to protect them, he was to guard them, Shelo Yavru Alehem, that they shouldn't pass into over them, Gayasot, that is the troops. Kevan Shamru Lo Yisrael. So that was basically, in other words, his job. He was getting paid to keep people out, to keep troops out. So insurance policy, right? Kevan Shamru Lo Yisrael Ebra Ba'artzecha, and since the Israelites said, we will pass through or let us pass through your land, your country. Amar lahem, he said, Sichon said to them, Kol atzmi eino yoshev kan, right? My whole purpose in dwelling in this particular area, Ela leshomram mipnechem, is to guard the others, right? The rest of the Canaanites from you, from you. For atam amrim kach, and this is what you're telling me, right? You're doing just the opposite. So this is why Sichon could not do it. Vayetze likrat Yisrael, and he went out to oppose the Israelites, to engage the Israelites. Ilu hayta cheshbon, so here's the point here. If cheshbon, this is the place, right? Cheshbon mle'a yitushin, were it filled with fleas or mosquitoes or something like that, right? Ein yachol bria yachola lechabsha. Even if that's only what was in it, people would have not been able to take it over, to conquer it. V'im haya Sichon bikvar chalash, and were Sichon living in a weak town, a poorly defended town, or one that wasn't in a very strategic place. Sorry, let me find. Ein kol adam yachol lechabsho. No one would be able to again conquer him. V'chol shechein, so all the more so, shaya becheshbon, that Sichon was in Cheshbon, to be in a town. So a powerful king, and also in a very fortified and powerful place. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So the Holy One, blessed be He, thought, Ma ani matriach al banai. Why should I put my children, my sons, to trouble? Kol zot latzur al kol ir ve'ir. In other words, okay, let's make sure this. I'm dividing this up. Ma'ani matriach al banai kol zot. Why should I put them to the trouble, all this trouble? Latsud al kol ir, to hunt every, or to latsur, I think would be a matzor, is a siege, to lay siege, al kol ir va'ir, it's a resh here, to lay siege to each and every town. So why would I want to put them to that kind of trouble? Natan belev kol anshe hamilchama. So he put a thought in the hearts, literally, of all the men of war, latzeit min ha'ayarot, to go out of their towns, v'nitkabtzu kulam lemakom echad, and so they all gathered to one place. V'sham naflu, and there they fell. Umisham halchu Yisrael, and from there the Jewish people went, the Israelite people went, El Ha'irim, from this field of battle. They then went into the towns, ve'ein omed lenigdam, and there was no one to oppose them, ki ein sham ish ela nashim v'taf, because there wasn't an able-bodied man there, only women and children. So, lots to be said here going on. Vayakehu Yisrael lechi charev, and Israel smote them by the sword, right? Vayirash et Atzor, and he inherited their country, their land, me Arnon, from the Arnon, these are wadis, right? Ad Yabok, to the Yabok, Ad Bnei Ammon, up until the inhabitants of Ammon. And you have to know that Ammon is also related to the Israelites, another son of Lot, Ammon. Ki az gvul bnei Ammon. So I think it means because the border of the children of Ammon was strong. It was strong. And here we go. Let's go. Let's see if we have thing. All right. Ki az, right? Because it was, I believe az is meaning powerful here, right? So in fact, this is borne out here. Umahu chezko, and what was the nature of its strength, the strength of this border? The strength of the border is, in other words, the implication now is that the Israelites didn't go any further than the border of Ammon, and it's saying because their border was strong or well fortified or something, that seems to be the implication. But as we see, in the nature of that strong border that held, Hatra'ato shel HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that was the forewarning of the Holy One, blessed be He. Essentially, She'amar lahem, because he said to them, and we read this in Deuteronomy chapter 2, Al tatsu ram v'gomar. So it says, do not lay siege to them, etc. In other words, God had told the Israelites they were to leave the Ammonites alone and not to take them on. So that's why their border was a sound border for them. Vayikach Yisrael, and Israel took, ate, kol ha'arim ha'ele, all these towns. Vayeshev, in other words, in these Amorite towns. Vayeshev Yisrael b'chol arei ha'emori, and Israel dwelt in all the towns of the Amorites. B'cheshbon, in Cheshbon, they dwelt in Cheshbon, the capital, uv'chol benoteha, and all its dependencies. And Banot, of course, refers to daughters, but so it's towns that were around it, as you'll see. Rashi's going to tell us. Benoteha, Kfarim, towns, Hasmuchim la, that were adjoining it, part of the suburbs, you might say. So, Ki Cheshbon ir Sichon, because Cheshbon was the city of Sichon, Melech HaEmori. He was the town of Sichon, the king of the Amorites. Vahu nilcham b'melech Moav, and he had done battle against the king of Moab, Harishon, a former king of Moab. Vayikach et kol artzo miado, and he had taken all his land from him. Ad Arnon, up to the Arnon River. And again, Moab, another descendant of Lot. So the Moabites were also descendants of Lot. So let's take a look at what's going on here. Okay. Nilcham. So this Sichon had done battle. So this is in the tractate Chulin, page 60b. Lama hutzrach likatev. So why do we need to deal with this, right? What are we interested in former battles of the king of against the king of Moab and by Sichon? We're not dealing with his history, so why are we mentioning this here? And here we're going to be told. Lefishinamar, because on account it says there, including, Al Tat, I think, unless it's referring to the Deuteronomy again, Sham means Ibid, but there's a reference here, and then there's a reference here. So I'm wondering, because Al Titzar et Moav, right? Because it also says, do not, lay siege to Moab. So presumably it's also in Deuteronomy. That would be the context. V'cheshbon, and as to Cheshbon, Mishel Moav Haita. And originally, this town of Cheshbon was in Moabite country. That's where it was to begin with. Katav lanu, so this is why it's written for us. She Sichon lakcha mehem, that Sichon, King Sichon, took Cheshbon from them. Right, and this is in Gittin Lamed Chet, in the tractate Gittin, page 38. For Al Yado, and by means of Sichon having done this, and because we are allowed to battle Sichon, Tahara Israel, he made it appropriate, he purified it so that the Israelites could take it. Had he not taken it, the Israelites would have been forbidden to live there and to conquer it, but because they weren't allowed to fight the Moabites, but because an Amorite king had taken it from them, they now were able to take this for their own when they conquered Sichon. Okay, let's make sure I've done all the Rashis on there. Yeah. So in other words, Mirushuto, from his possession, right? From what he had. Oh, Miado, sorry. There was this Miado, from his hand, means essentially from his possession. Atom Miado, from his hand. Okay. Al ken yomru hamoshlim. For this reason, the bards, the troubadours, sing. They bo cheshbon, come to cheshbon, tibaneh, let it be built up, v'tikonen ir Sichon, and let the city of Sichon be established. Right. So let's see who was singing this. Right. Okay. For this reason, aloto milchama, for that particular battle, shel nincham Sichon b'Moav, regarding which Sichon had been fighting the Moabites. Yomru hamoshlim, right? So the troubadours, the bards sing, and the answer is, who is this troubadour? Bilam. We're actually talking about Bilam, who's coming up very soon. Shineamar bo, regarding whom it is said in Numbers chapter 23, Vayisam Mashalo. There we go. That when we read about Bilam and it talks about what Bilam was saying, it says he took up his theme or he took up his song, something, but it says Moshlim there. Here it says Moshlim and there it says Mashalo. And so we put the two together, they connect the two together. Hamoshlim. So who are these? It's plural, right? Who are these bards? Bilam, it's Bilam, we just mentioned, Uvaor, right? And Baor. They are, I think, Boer. Bilam is the son of Baor. Vehem Amru. And they're the ones who said, Bo'u Cheshbon, so you should come to Cheshbon. Shelo haya Sichon yachol lechabsha, because in fact at the time Sichon, remember we were told how powerful and how strong and fortified Cheshbon was. Well, Sichon actually wasn't able to conquer it. He wasn't going to be able to conquer it. V'halach sachar et Bilam, and so he went and he hired Bilam lekalalo, to curse it. V'zehu shamar, and this is the reference, right? Lo Balak, when King Balak said to him, and this is Numbers chapter 22, Ki yadati, for I know, I'm aware, et asher tevarech mevorach, that which you bless is blessed, v'gomer, and that which you curse, of course, etc., that which you curse is cursed. So that Bilam was the one who made it possible by uttering this curse, and that allowed Sichon to conquer Cheshbon. So, Tibaneh v'techonen, right? Let it be built up and let it be established. Cheshbon b'shem Sichon liyot iro. So we're talking about let Cheshbon be set up, to be built up and established. B'shem Sichon, in the name of Sichon, liyot iro, to be his capital city, his city. And we'll stop right here. And I'll be happy if any of you want to share anything. This would be a good place.
Yeah, I think the tribe of Mishnah and Reuben, they took over those towns. They didn't want to go into the promised land. They said, this land was really great. We're going to stay here. And then Moses said, yeah, if you fight for us, you can have that land.
Yes. So we will get to that a little later. And so for some reason, I'm not able to. Okay. All
But,
right.
but we defeated the king of Og and the other king, and
Yes.
it's a good land. It's Jordan. It's part of Jordan.
Yeah.
I think Amman is part of the country that
Yeah.
they're talking about.
Yes. Right. I know. I understand. Okay. All right. Oh, good. Yes, I'm able to do that. I wasn't able to do it before.
But did Balak curse? He didn't curse the Jews. He he did the opposite.
Um,
But he was being paid to curse them. And yeah, so that's a different thing. I love
none of that.
how
Sorry,
it's
Golda.
not
Just,
linear.
yeah.
I love how the the Torah to me is, in the Rush and stuff are not linear
Yeah.
because they're pulling from here and there and places that things that we have not yet
Mhm.
done or seen, uh, but are simultaneously like common knowledge
Yeah.
ish. Yeah.
So I'm trying to think. Oh, yes. So Bilam, of course, who we'll read about yet, is actually, even though he was paid to curse them, he actually wanted to curse them. He was happy to take money to curse them. He wasn't going to work at all. He was doing exactly what he wanted to do, and we get to see Bilam's real desires later on. So he was based, remember, he was forced to bless the Jewish people, but he wasn't able to curse them. But that's for next week. And I'm going to stop the recording right here.